Before becoming a candidate for the 6th Congressional District, Gregg Marcel Dixon was also a charter school district teacher in Jasper County. He's now suing that school district after letting him go suddenly. I talked one-on-one with him about this lawsuit for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Gregg Marcel Dixon, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me back.
Oh, you're welcome. You are a former United States congressional candidate who ran against current United States Congressman Jim Clyburn. And I know that you've been busy with a lot of issues, including, wanting reparations and whatnot. But I wanted to bring you back on Quintin's Close-Ups because you brought to my attention a couple of months ago about obviously a discrimination lawsuit in which you are, involved with right now with your former employer and some other folks. And I want to take it to WOLO television in Columbia. They wrote this as a headline. They said this: teacher claiming discrimination sues former employer. A South Carolina charter school is being accused of discriminating against a teacher who had already been working for the Royal Lives Oaks Academy for a decade. Let me ask you this, Mr. Marcel. A decade. What did you do? What did you teach there during your time there at that particular academy?
I taught a variety of subjects. I taught ELA, social studies for elementary, social studies for middle school, gifted and talented, Model United Nations coach, academic coach, project-based learning coach, test coordinator. I'm trying to see if I forgot anything, and I wrote multiple grants that earned the school to fund projects over $30,000 at least.
And I know that you were also Teacher of the Year at one point. Teacher of the Year
and District Teacher of the Year. That's and right. Academic Coach of the Year.
Mm. And I know that according to you, your executive director at the school decided not to rehire you. So when was your contract set to expire?
It was set to expire, but the term usually ends in late July. Mm. But usually new contracts are given out in April.
And when were you notified that you wouldn't get your new contract?
I was notified of that in May 12th, which is interesting because I had just had a confrontation with James Clyburn's daughter on May 10th. And on May 12th, I was informed that I would not be invited back.
And how were you informed? By email, by letter, by face-to-face?
I was not going to inquire about it one way or the other, but for some reason, Karen Wicks, made it a point to invite me up and tell me that she would not invite me back. And as I stated in my lawsuit, she made the comment, I already mentioned at one point you being an angry black man.
Are you angry black man?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, I said to her, if we see the conditions in the world and we are not angry, then something's wrong with us. But I also said to her that anger can be a force for good. And what matters as a school teacher is your student data. Karen Wicks likes to say that kids cannot learn from someone of whom they are afraid. And yet my data, year after year after year, I had among, or sometimes the highest student growth, highest student achievement year after year. My student surveys gave me 75 to 95%. So anger can be used as a force for good. Yes, I'm angry over the injustices. But here's the thing, Quintin. Whether I'm angry, okay, you can discipline someone for being angry or dismiss them. But being black or being a man, if I was angry, that should be sufficient enough. Why did you bring up me being black and being a man? And not only did she do it then, she did it before.
And how you did it before? How long was this going on prior to you being fired?
She did it in January when teacher was doing a training, and she was going around asking people what motivated them, and she got to me, and I said, what motivates me is justice, and that's what led to me becoming a teacher. I said justice, and especially justice, not only but especially justice for my fellow Black American students, because when I was a student, I'm a product of the Jasper County School District. It was majority Black, and it still pretty much is. I saw the inequities we experienced and wanted to make a change. And she said, well, when you say things like that, it makes you sound like an angry Black man. And then she brought it up again when dismissing me.
Wow. So were you able to bring up or be able to teach about, discrimination and injustice during your curriculum?
I never brought up my personal
Right,
beliefs,
right.
but in social studies class, and of course, a good teacher is not just teaching academic values, they're also trying to impose good moral values. But I never imposed my beliefs, and I never brought up my personal fight for reparations or racial justice. But I would teach my students how everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, but I never brought up my personal beliefs, even though there were several lessons in social studies where I talked with the kids about equity and equities. So some lessons, there was an educational requirement to teach about those things, but I never brought up my own personal beliefs, and there is no record of me ever doing so with the students.
Now, with the students, did students give you any feedback about some of the stuff that you taught in those particular studies?
I mean, I have plenty of students, especially when I taught middle school. Every middle schooler thinks they are social activists. So my middle school students, they always wanted in high school, not as much elementary,
Mm.
sort of, but middle school, those where the kids really are coming of age and they're realizing injustices. They're becoming more aware of things that are happening. And they always wanted to protest this or help me to help them advocate for this. And what I would do as a teacher, I said, I'm going to give you the skills and the know-how of how to advocate for yourself and advocate for whatever issue, know how to communicate your ideas, know how to debate and make counter arguments to things you may hear against what you're proposing. But I never involved them in anything of my own.
And what were those things that you were proposing at the school that they basically said no to?
There was really nothing to which they said no, but there was a conversation that I had with Karen Wicks where she said that, we need to check our personal beliefs at the door. And I believe that to the extent where we should not be imposing our personal beliefs on our students. I've never done that, never been a fan of that. However, I did say to her, as staff members, teachers, who are teaching a very diverse population, a school is the place where we as teachers should be having these intellectual conversations about bias, injustice. This is a woman who claims that's why she opened this school in Jasper County. She actually opened it because she saw it was a business opportunity and that we didn't have any other schools in Jasper County School District. But let her tell it. She opened this school because of injustices, because she saw her own words how the children of color, I guess meaning black kids, were being deprived of a quality education. And yet this is the same woman telling me that I didn't have a right to mention my reason for getting in teaching when I was asked why.
And did any of your colleagues give her any feedback about your performance?
I have had many, look, I'm a very tough teacher, unapologetic. But that's why you can look at my record and see year after year after year, I'm getting bonuses for my student data. I was rated EVOS 5. For those who don't know, EVOS was a ranking system from 1 to 5. 5 is the highest. I was EVOS 5 several years in a row until South Carolina ended the program or they ended their contract with EVOS. I don't know what happened. That's why I received accolades from her, written letters from the State Department. So, of course, some of my colleagues felt that would be too rough with the kids, but the overwhelming majority of my colleagues would choose me as a teacher of the year, would choose me as the person who should represent the school, would choose me as the person to be the lead teacher. She sent several of my colleagues to be trained by me. That's why she made me an academic coach. So, yes, as you can imagine, Quintin, teachers always receive feedback that's sometimes not positive from students, teachers, administrators, but the overwhelming majority of my feedback from my colleagues were positive. And the students, most teachers would never ask students, how do you feel about your teacher? If you asked middle school me how I felt about my teachers, it would not have been good. I asked my students how they felt about me, and 75 to 95%, 75 minimum, 95% the highest, said Mr. Dixon cares about us. He's a good teacher. We can come to him, and he's going to tell us the right thing to do.
So, how long were you training some of these teachers?
Even when I was in the classroom as a classroom teacher, my first year at that school, 2012, she would send teachers to me to get training, to observe my classroom, to observe my classroom management structure. So the entire time I was at Royal Atlas Academy, even the last year, she was sending teachers to be trained by me and had me as an academic coach. And yet, I'm an angry black man, but you were sending teachers to be trained by me. You were having me take kids on field trips. I wasn't too angry for you to entrust me with training other teachers. I wasn't too angry for you to entrust me with taking students on field trips, and we always got compliments from the places where we went saying that we were the best behaved group ever. So I found her words, which are wrong constitutionally speaking, they just don't add up with the fact that she entrusted me with all these privileges.
Now, what was your classroom structure like prior to you being let go?
I'm sorry.
What was your classroom structure like prior to you being let go?
It was amazing. I had a team I was on. I don't want to say their names, hope they don't mind. Miss Johnson, Miss Gallant, Miss Porter. Johnson was science. Gallant was social studies. My second love, my first love sometimes, social studies. Miss Porter was math, and I was ELA. They used to call us the dream team. We taught fourth and fifth graders, and we ran a tight ship. They, in the fourth and fifth graders, though, we did all kinds of things together. And of course, my classroom, I told my students, I give you control until you lose control. And if you lose control, you giving it to me. And they never wanted me to have it. So
did you lose control in the classroom?
No. Now, I would get on my students. Oh, yes, I will. And for students who are more timid, look, as you can tell by the way I'm speaking, I have a strong voice. I come off very strong. And for some students who are more timid, it scares them. But the majority of my students, and keep in mind, Quintin, I did student surveys that I have. I'm ready for my day in court because I know what Karen's going to try to do. She's going to try to cite the small minority of the thousands of parents I have who had complained about me. Keep in mind, this is a woman who had YouTube videos from children complaining about her. I made them take it down. They had Google reviews about her, negative. I made them take it down. This is a woman who has a long history of people complaining about her, calling her racist. And, well, seems like they weren't wrong. But she wants to try to take the small minority of complaints I've gotten as that represents me and ignore the overwhelming positive response recorded by student data that I have. So now I never lost control. I would get my students in line. Something, which is the reason why she would get other teachers to come and observe me. Because I really sent kids to the office because I handled most of my problems in-house.
Now, did you get any Google reviews?
No. I have student surveys that they did anonymously. Most were not even done with me. You can ask my colleagues. They would do it in my colleagues' homeroom, and they were all done anonymously. And you can ask my colleagues. I would make sure every student did it. And they were not, I don't know who said what. They would give me the name, but they wouldn't show the response. They wouldn't show a timestamp, so I can't correlate who said what when. I would just make sure that every student's voice was heard.
Now, according to the school's website, and this is coming from WOLO in Columbia, their amended rules in the Title IX of their handbook says that they do not discriminate against students or staff because of their religion, race, and sex. So was this allegedly politics?
It's both, Quintin. It's both. I am not going to make, you didn't mention this part, but I'm just going to mention it. My lawsuit is not just racial discrimination. It's not just wrongful dismissal. At first, that's all I thought it was. People were telling me, Gregg, or Marcel, as you know me, this is deeper than racial discrimination and wrongful dismissal. And they are right. So it's also a conspiracy for political retaliation. I have named James Clyburn and his daughter Jennifer Clyburn in my lawsuit. Karen Witz and the board of Erskine Charter Institute. I have done research. I'm not going to make my case here, but all I'm going to say is when I get my day in court, I promise people are going to hear the whole story that shows that these things, they don't want you to believe these are coincidences. Let me show you some things I found. I'll give you a little preview. One, after I announced my election, it was put in the Buffalo Today newspaper. Immediately afterwards, something happened in the U.S. House of Representatives. James Clyburn is the majority whip in the House. Nothing happens legislatively unless it goes through him. And the Democrats had the House majority. Immediately after I announced my campaign, something legislatively happened in regards to charter schools that I will not name right now, but I have evidence showing that it did. Then, when that particular legislative action happened, an organization with whom Karen Ritz is affiliated, she's the vice president of the South Carolina branch, or at least she was, by this time she was the president, they made a comment about this legislation, saying how it's going to hurt low-income people, especially children of color. Karen Wicks, something she's never done before, she called me to a meeting over the summer and asked me did I think about how my actions were going to impact the children of color. And I don't like that children of color. So I'm a black man. I'm not no person of color. I'm black. We have a unique history. Black American. But she said in low-income people, she said the exact same words that the organization, the national branch, said in response to the Democrats making a certain move legislatively that would impact charges. She said those exact same words to me. Then, after that, I could do nothing right the whole year. They tried to get me to sign a behavior or what do they call a professional improvement plan, saying that I need to do projects. We're a project-based learning school, but I was the only teacher on the campus who was doing projects. I said that to him. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Let me go back just a little bit. So when did you and Miss Karen allegedly have, I guess, a falling out?
2 weeks after it was announced about them today that I will be running for office, a week or two, he called me in for an interview and said, did you think about how you're running? People have asked me how this is going to impact the children, especially these low-income children. Around the same time that the move from the U.S. House Democrats, I'm not going to name right now, happened that would impact charter schools. Around the same time that the branch, the organization with which she is now the president of the South Carolina branch, the Public Charter School Alliance, the national branch made a statement that what the U.S. House Democrats were planning to do will hurt children of color, low-income children. She called me in and said those same exact words as if it was my fault that the U.S. House was making that move. James Clyburn is the U.S. House Majority Whip. Now, people like to tell me this is a coincidence, but there is more that you must hear. After we had that conversation, and I think she was trying to coerce me into stepping down, and I will not, I could do nothing right.
What then, Mr. Marcel, to be fair, why did you take a leave of absence from your job?
I did not take a leave of absence from my job.
Why didn't you?
Because I have to work. Okay? Especially, for most Americans living paycheck to paycheck. And if you look at the wealth, Black Americans have the least amount of wealth. So if I was to take a paycheck from my job, how could I afford to make a living? And by the way, like I told Karen Wicks, you have the life outside of a teacher my entire life. And I've been the teacher of the year, district teacher of the year, high performing student data some years or highest, among the highest. So I've never let my outside life impact my life inside the classroom. And the data from my last year with the school would show that. So I could not afford to take a leave of absence. And I'm not the only person in the school who has ran for office and been elected. Okay? I'm just the only person who ran against someone as powerful and well-connected as James Clyburn.
And these are just allegations, so I want to get their side of the story, so I will bring them on Quintin's Close Ups to get their side of the story as well. But let me ask you this. Any other false allegations against you?
There's been plenty. You can talk to any teacher. Most teachers have false allegations launched against them. And this particular year, though, my last year there, I didn't have any false allegations launched against me. I had, but I could do nothing right. One day I was wearing a hat. There were no kids in the school. I was wearing a hat. And Karen Wicks tried to make me take it off in front of other people, and I would not do it. And then when a white colleague came, and they asked him, they said, hey, did she reach out? He's like, no, she saw me several times and didn't say nothing to me. Then she questioned my patriotism. There was an old flag in a garbage bag that the teacher before me had there, and they said, anything you don't want, just put it out by the door. And I did that. And then I was being called in office, not to just say, hey, there's protocol for disposing of a flag, whatever. I was being questioned about my patriotism. She told me about her brother's a veteran and what patriotism. And I said, oh, hold on, wait a minute. My great-great-great-grandfather fought for the Union Army in the Civil War. I'm pretty sure I have relatives that fought in the War of 1812 Revolutionary War. I told her every war this nation's had, and I've had family members who fought. My great grandfather right now is still alive. He's a World War II veteran. He never got a penny in the GI Bill, and I told her, I'm sure your brother did. Says, don't question my patriotism. And everything, there was always an allegation or an exaggeration of things that were not said and were not done. That's why I started recording all my conversations.
So
Because
when
I
did
said,
you start?
no, something's going on here.
When did you start recording those conversations?
After she met with me about the flag and she questioned my patriotism, I said, okay, something deep is going on here, and I need to get these recordings, these things on recording. And that's what I started doing.
And what were those alleged, exaggerations that you just mentioned?
Well, okay, so one, they claimed a parent came and said her daughter was afraid of coming to me. Okay, which sometimes, like I said, if kids are more timid, I'm a male teacher, loud voice, that sometimes happens. But I spoke with this parent, so I ain't never said nothing like that. She said nothing like that. She said her daughter told her that, Mr. Dixon makes some of those kids really listen. And boy, when Mr. Dixon gets on those kids, he can be scary. But the daughter never said she was afraid to come to me. As a matter of fact, she said the daughter enjoyed coming to my class. Then there was a student whose mother was upset that the student was losing recess to do her work. Now, it was not me keeping her from recess. Have I done that before? Oh, yes, when kids need extra time. But I was not doing it this particular time, and they tried to make it seem like that was me. It was all of these exaggerations and distortions of the truth. And I have things recorded. And when the discovery process starts and these things come to light, I will be vindicated.
Well,
And always.
And always. You said it didn't happen this time as far as the recess incident. How many times did that happen before?
Oh, I've kept kids from recess several times before to complete their work or to give them extra assistance. And most parents appreciate that. But you're always going to have parents who don't appreciate it or have a different view. So I don't have an exact number, but yes, I've kept kids from recess. Wasn't I would even have kids stay back with me with art and music time to talk with them or to tutor them and then let them go. Those are things that a lot of teachers who truly care will do. Sacrifice what should be their free time to help students get up the pace or get further understanding. It got to the point where some students would volunteer to stay behind. And I would say, y'all, I need a break today. Y'all got to go.
Now, I'm sure, did the parents appreciate that?
Yes, the majority did.
Did the administration appreciate that?
Yes. Matter of fact, they would, again, encourage teachers to come to me and emulate the things I was doing.
Now, you mentioned, obviously, the Clyburns allegedly being involved with this as far as your dismissal. Did you, by any chance, say anything allegedly false about the Clyburn family?
No.
Anything on social media?
No.
Why a federal lawsuit? Why now?
Well, initially, I filed with the EEOC about me being dismissed. But as I started doing research, as I was describing earlier, I started noticing a lot of relationships, and I guess what some people would think are coincidences, but I know it's not. As I was saying, immediately after I ran, certain dominoes started falling in place that, again, people will probably say are just coincidental. People will say I'm being speculative, but I know there's a there. On the Erskine Charter School Board, I am not going to say who, and I'm not going to name any names, but there's an entity that has a history of doing conspiracies, okay? Or doing shadow government, okay? There's an entity there. So the behavior that I'm alleging in my lawsuit, I discovered later on has actually happened before, not with me, but in other instances. Another thing that happened, again, I found out relationships. And after I was dismissed and after the election ended, I saw other relationships that I could not find evidence of existing before. I am confident there's a there. Yes, these are allegations, obviously. That's why we have our day in court to prove. And now, as you probably made aware of, I filed a lawsuit against the Karen and Erskine.
Right.
The Clyburns have been added.
Right.
Immediately after that, Rick Gergel, okay.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Mr. Marcel, because how soon after that did the case got assigned to another judge?
A week after I had the Clyburns, it was mysteriously reassigned to Rick Gergel, who was recommended
Mm.
to be appointed as a federal judge by Clyburn, appointed by Obama, and once he got approval, and he's a regular Clyburn donor.
How much did he allegedly donate to Mr. Clyburn and his campaign?
I don't have the exact figures, but he's donated on several occasions.
Now, have you done a pre-impeachment challenge on all of this?
Not yet.
What are the specifics?
The specifics of doing a pre-impeachment challenge?
That's right.
Well, I'm researching right now. I'm representing myself.
I heard that.
I don't think the Clyburn believes that. I think he believes that someone's putting me up to have a machine. You see, they don't respect black people. Even some other black ones don't. They think I'm not smart enough. I'm really doing all this myself. So when I tell you it's sleepless nights, sleepless weeks, it is. So I'm doing research myself on how to go about doing this, because there's more that you must hear. Clyburn has an attorney. He has a right to have his own attorney. Dick Harpootlian, the Murdoch attorney, so people know him now. Harpootlian hired the former law clerk of Rick Gergel. So there's this conflicts all around. Doesn't mean anyone's doing anything wrong, but it is definitely something that could cause a person to feel that they will not get the fair due process.
And I would like to get those particular people on Quintin's Close-Ups to get their side of the story as well, just to be fair. But Mr. Marcel, in what way do you actually have a good case right now?
I have a good case because, one, once the discovery process comes out, the story that I already see what happened, the chain of events, I will be able to fill in those gaps with the emails, text messages, phone calls, and other things that will show me that prove that there's a dare there. Okay, right now I have the story, the chain of events. I just need to fill in those gaps. And I strongly believe that's why they're trying not to let the discovery process happen. They're trying to get it thrown up, or they're trying to get rid of me, or they're trying to have it thrown out where I can go to appeal, and that will take 2 years. And that way this will be gone for at least 2 years and just cause me to spend more money that I don't have.
Have they extended this time so far?
I mean, has it been thrown out and I have to go to appeal yet? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, they're asking for more time on this case.
No, I actually requested an extension to respond to the motion to dismiss from Erskine and Heron Wicks.
Yes, sir. So what are other gaps that you want to fill during this discovery process?
As I stated, I don't want to make my case here on your show yet because there will be time for that. But these coincidental chain of events and relationships that were formed shortly after I announced my election, after the election ended June 14, 2022, I don't believe they're coincidences. I believe that there will be hard evidence showing that there was communication behind the scenes to conspire against me. And the racial discrimination part was just a cherry on top of the larger political conspiracy. That is what I believe.
But Mr. Marcel, then why are you litigating your case on Twitter trying to win public opinion?
Because I am not litigating on opinion. I'm doing what Emmett Till's mother did. When her son was lynched, he did an open casket so everybody can see all the disgusting things that were happening. I am going public with this because there's a history of when people run against Clyburn. I'm not saying Congressman Clyburn has done something wrong. Brandon Upson ran against the person he endorsed. Brandon's brakes went out. Dr. Michael Addison's daughter was canvassing. Her lug nuts came off her tire. He's facing a barrage of false lawsuits, which are probably coming my way as well. There is a history of people facing these strange misfortunes the moment they run underneath the Democratic umbrella against Clyburn or someone he picks. People stay quiet, not me. I'm not going to be the abused wife getting my tail beat and I'm saying nothing about it. I'm going public with everything. The day for me to make my case, that will be in court.
But then, are you actually winning public opinion over this?
I can tell you I'm getting public attention over this. I have had several journalists from large news companies reach out to me. I'm very selective about what I tell them, but they now feel there's a dare there, where at first they were pretty much ignoring this.
What are you limiting them to as far as the specifics? What are you limiting the journalists to as far as specifics?
No, yes, as far as making my case, that will happen in the courtroom. But I'm telling them what pretty much I have told you and giving them some additional details about what I allege in my lawsuit.
So what got you from the lawsuit, what got your lawsuit, that is, from a civil lawsuit to now a criminal notice of appearance?
I don't know what that's about. My lawsuit is a civil action lawsuit. I couldn't file a criminal lawsuit if I wanted to. That comes from my research. A prosecutor or at least a solicitor. I don't know what that's about. Maybe Harpooliton made a mistake, but he's a pretty successful lawyer, and he doesn't make mistakes like that. That's something I would do as pro se, not Harpooliton, who's a SC senator and a lawyer. So I don't know what that's about.
Did his team file a form used in criminal cases in your mind?
I'm sorry.
Did his team file a form used in criminal cases in your mind?
I don't know what that's about. Again, I mean, that is saying that Clyburn's making a notice of appearance in a criminal case, but this is not these aren't criminal allegations. These are civil actions. So I am not sure what that's about.
Do you believe this will become a criminal case?
I don't know. Of course, other people, like one of the journalists that called me, said, "Oh, they're saying the quiet part out loud. There's something criminal there." I don't know. And all I'm alleging is what's in my lawsuit. Anything criminal beyond that, I have no comment.
Now, has Clyburn been served with that lawsuit that you actually filed?
No. I have yet to receive the summons. Usually I receive them 2 or 3 days later. I called my case manager, and they're saying they're waiting for an additional motion from the judge, who again is a regular Clyburn donor and was recommended as a federal judge by Clyburn. So go figure. So again, these are just coincidences. We're not supposed to. There's no dare there. These are just coincidences. That's what everybody wants you to believe. Just a coincidence.
You just because I saw this on Twitter, but what's the separate GoFundMe for legal defense?
A branch, not the national, a branch of Black Lives Matter. I believe they're based somewhere in the Northeast. They contacted me and want to set up a litigation fund to help me. Now, I'm very suspicious of everyone. Where were you before, and now you're showing up? But I'm just letting people know. They say this litigation fund will go towards helping me, and we'll see.
How much have you raised thus far?
I have no idea. That goes to them.
Did they tell you what goal did they have in mind for you?
Their goal is when the discovery process happens to help me go through the evidence I will get. And also, in case I need help, because I am pro se, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job. Because I have relatives who work in a law firm. I have a pretty big time lawyer. He doesn't know me. We don't talk like that. But sometimes he gives my relatives advice. He gives me advice. They want to pretty much help me with the process of Quintin. I don't trust no one. I just don't. That's why I decided to represent myself. Not only could I not afford it, obviously, I just don't trust anyone.
Now, how much money in total have they given you thus far?
They've given me nothing. No money goes to me. It goes to them to help me, like pay a paralegal to do a complaint, which, trust me, I have carpal tunnel right now probably. But typing up, doing the research, typing up those complaints, those legal documents, it's tedious is an understatement.
Now, Mr. Marcel, how are you keeping that legal fund separate from your campaign contributions?
Because the legal fund doesn't come to me. It goes to Black Lives Matter.
Now, did you use any leftover campaign contributions to file this particular lawsuit?
No, I can't do that.
Now, when will you decide to run for Congress again?
I announced my re-election July 2022.
And so far, how much money have you gotten from that as far as contributions to your campaign?
I don't know the exact figure, but everything is public on fec.gov, Committee to Elect Gregg Marcel Dixon.
Gregg Marcel Dixon, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, for having me. You take care.
Likewise.